1520 WBZW, Apopka's hometown station. Mary Flynn here on this lovely Apopka day. Your hometown live. I'm in the studio with Pete Paquette and someone very special on the line that you're going to want to be interested in, Sara Mohsin from Mohsin Mortgage Corporation. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Better since you're on the line. That's nice.
Thank you for having me on air.
We're excited to have you because, you know, there's so much going on now, and you know better than any of us what is going on or not going on in the housing market. And can you give us an update on state of affairs, if that's possible?
Oh, absolutely, Mary. I mean, it's an exciting time right now because property values are up. It's a good time to buy. Rates are very low, and we're looking at low fixed interest rates. So there's secure mortgage options and low down payment options. So even for folks who've been paying away on their mortgage diligently, the mortgage is good debt. So it allows a lot of folks to now consider refinancing, maybe paying off some negative debt like credit cards, for example, Mary.
So, well, I imagine that's perhaps especially true, what little I know, Sara, but I'm thinking now that the Fed is going into a mode where they might be having several rate drops, what does that do? Does that really stoke the market?
It does. I mean, considering the fact that rates right now are in the fours, I mean, we work with 50 banks, so we get the lowest rates. So it's kind of like going to the outlet store when you want to buy the same brand, but you just don't want to pay the same amount of money.
Right.
So we're very, very efficient and able to provide the lowest rates, even for someone who may have 800 scores to 580 credit scores. So just because you have a score that's under 600 doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that you created this bad debt. Things do happen. That's what we, it's life challenges.
What about that? What about the scores? How critical are they? It's true that you don't have to have an 800 score, but what does it mean if you do have like 625 or something?
Right. I mean, it just means that if you go to a retail bank, like a local bank, they will look at someone with a 660 score or 650 score, and then they will not go under that 650 mark. So anything under that is considered a no. So if you're going to buy a home, if you want to do a refinance, if you want to do a reverse mortgage, it's a blanket no. So they're only saying no because they don't have the products. They have limited portfolio. We do fixed rates just like the local bank. We don't do risky loans. We don't do adjustable rates. We give the person who has a lower credit score, even under 600, the same interest rate that is as low as right now, Mary. We're looking at rates in the 3s and the 4s.
It's pretty good.
As well as someone who has an 800 score.
Sure. You know, a friend of mine is selling her house. She's had it on the market. I'm surprised. She's had it on the market now for, I think, has to be 7 months. And she can't sell it. She doesn't have many lookers. She's in a beautiful community, a gated community. Her house is going for, well, she's already dropped it from the 6s down to 5-something. The agent she was working with suggested she drop it even more, which scares her. And yet, I have another friend in a community where 2 houses down, well, 2 of them sold, but those houses were in the high 2s. So there's a lot of that going on, isn't there? It makes a difference where, what level price your house is at right now?
It does, but actually, I don't know which state, because we're licensed in multiple states, Mary. So can you tell me which state the
Oh, yeah, Florida, right here in Florida.
Florida.
Yeah.
Okay, so
right here in Central Florida.
Okay, I think it's unusual for her property not to sell because the market is up. And so we do on the buyer side, we do the financing for homes and commercial properties. So we've done, high rises. We've done 100,000 to multi-million, billion-dollar projects. So what I look at is, what is it that is happening at that property? Because is there something that I'm missing that would create that no for a buyer? I mean, is there maybe the maintenance on a pool? Maybe it's not an end unit, or is it just that it could be the realtor hasn't got the actual marketing experience to list it in areas where people can see, because now we're looking at a jumbo loan. So anything over that $500,000 mark, it becomes a whole different type of loan.
Mm-hmm.
And the rates are usually higher. They're usually in the 6s and 7s. But for us as a lender, we can have rates in the 3s and the 4s for any buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's two factors. There may be something that there's a lack of maybe a bedroom or an issue with the way the property is put together, or it could be even the realtor, because of the fact that every realtor works differently and they have access to different ways of marketing that property. And this is specifically when you're hitting market of properties that are jumbo loans, multi-million, billion-dollar, it's a different approach. So there are specific real estate agents that are focused in that area.
Right.
Or is there repairs that need to be done on the property? So there are many factors.
The house is gorgeous, and it's about 4,500 square feet. And it I don't know, it seems it should sell, but
it should
does
sell.
it have a pool?
It does.
It does have,
Is there a problem with a pool? I don't know. I saw something interesting in your notes about that. Is that true?
It can be, yes, because obviously not every person who's going there may want to buy a home with a pool, so it eliminates, obviously, maybe some families that may not want a pool. Maybe they don't swim. Maybe it's a safety issue. Maybe they don't want to incur on the cost for a pool because it becomes expensive to maintain a pool. So it's not necessarily everybody's kind of dream.
It's interesting because you were talking about the realtor. Do you get involved in the pre-sale, or mostly when?
Sure.
Yeah,
we do. We're very hands-on. So what we do is we work with real estate agents. We recommend real estate agents. We're not affiliated to any agency. We're a family-owned business, so we don't have any investors. We have just multiple lenders, and we have a very large team. But the bottom line with properties like this, the one that you mentioned of your friend, it's a hot market. So it isn't like a $600,000 property is not necessarily the most expensive property in Florida. Like Naples has properties in the multi-million-dollar range. There should be no difficulty in selling it. It's the traffic, where is the marketing going? And you're saying it's a gorgeous property. Sometimes it could be just the way it's being marketed. I don't like putting.
How about the comparables, Sarah? I mean, is this the only $500,000 or $600,000 home in the neighborhood, or is it a full, like, big popular neighborhood of the same priced homes? And is everyone having that same issue? Right.
Well, you made a good point, Pete, because one of the problems is if someone bought the house for like $300,000 and they added like $300,000 worth of stuff in the property, that doesn't make it a $600,000 property. What makes a property a $600,000 property is based on the last 3 miles in that radius to compare properties similar to that. If that is the only $600,000 property, then there's a problem because it completely stands out, and comparing it to any property in that gated community is going to be an issue.
Here's my take on it, actually, just real quick, my take is that it's in a gorgeous, very upscale neighborhood. But she put herself pretty much in the hands of a realtor 2 houses away who has taken control of the entire thing.
The neighbor realtor.
The neighbor.
Right.
And I really think at this point that has become an issue. They had a buyer, and it fell through. A cash buyer. And the man was a remarriage, and he didn't like the stairs, but she loved the house. It's gorgeous. And
hey, guys, we're going to need to take a break Sarah, can you stick around for a little bit?
Sure, absolutely.
Excellent.
Oh, great.
You don't mind, do you, Mary?
No, I love having Sarah.
We
got stuff to talk about, Sarah. 1520 WBZW, Apopka's hometown live station. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Pastor Doug Bankson, and you are listening to 1520 WBZW, Apopka's hometown radio station.
1520 WBZW, Apopka's hometown live. We're here in the studio this afternoon with Pete Paquette and our special guest, Sara Mohsin of Mohsin Mortgage.
Sarah's on the line. By the way, 888-662-9550 is always the number to connect with Sara. 800-662-9550, direct to the Mohsin Mortgage Corporation. And, of course, that website, Sara, your MMC mtg.com, right? That's a
right, yeah.
lot of stuff going on there. Always busy on that website too. So
Good.
yeah, but great conversation, you guys, before the break. I mean, talking about some real world real estate stuff going on out there.
Well, it's the reality that this house, and we kind of just ended on that, the idea that you've got all these statistics and all these parameters and all these ideas, and then you say to yourself, well, wait a minute, did this actually boil down to the fact that two houses away is a neighbor realtor? And is he leading my friend into a good scenario here? I mean, I think personally she should have been able to sell this house by now. And scarier than that is that she already has bought a second one, Sarah. So it's scary time.
Well, I mean, one of the things also, depending on obviously her needs, but one of the things that we are helpful with is if anybody walks into a home that they wish to purchase, they may have limitations because it could be credit score or down payment. And that's what we can offer a buyer who may come in and maybe they don't have the financing, maybe they haven't gotten that pre-approval yet. But we can do that because jumbo loans are not that complicated, but they become complicated for the local banks because they're smaller banks, you know?
That's good to know.
And then it becomes a problem for the buyer because they end up with a higher interest rate.
Right.
And we give out a much lower interest rate, so the payment can be $1,000 lower a month versus going with a retail bank, which would have, let's say, a 7% interest rate. We may have a 4% interest rate. And the other thing, Mary, if you don't mind, because this is a very interesting topic, I'm glad you shared this on air about your friend's home. It is a buyer's market, so it would be wise for your friend to see with your realtor whether she can just continue, perhaps. I don't know if she signed a contract for 3 months or a year, and then find another realtor because the market is up. People are having bidding wars on properties throughout the country, and Florida is one of those states. And
you know what I think? I don't think she signed a contract, but I think she feels bad. Because this fellow, but at some point, she's got to know her money's on the line and she's losing. She's going to get to the point where she's losing a lot of money by the month.
I mean, she has, right. She has a property she has to make a payment on, and she has this other property. So, I know there's emotion involved, but I'm sure the realtor would understand that now it's a question of getting that sold, immediately.
I'm curious about some other things, just to switch a little bit if we could. Is interest only pretty much gone by the wayside because of the raise in rates? What's going on with interest only loans?
Well, we offer options as long as there's education in place. Interest only loans typically, people don't realize that they see like an equity line. They call them HELOC, and a lot of retail banks offer them. The problem with home equity lines of credit is, this is my pet peeve, because they're not equity lines of credit. They're mortgages, and they should be identified as mortgages so that the individual, the borrower, knows that it's a mortgage. And often people have a first mortgage, and then they get an equity line of credit, which is a second mortgage. It's not an equity line. And they're making payments on that equity line of credit, but they're really not realizing they're only making interest-only payments, which isn't making a dent in the balance owing.
Oh, for sure.
And that becomes a problem,
So if you have I'm just making this up, I don't know, $135,000 equity mortgage, you pay monthly, and it's like renting your own home. That $135,000 mortgage is not budging. It's still $130,000. Yeah.
And even worse, because a lot of the equity lines of credit, people don't realize, that they're not making a dent into the principal. The rates also adjust, and there is a higher default rate after that 10-year mark is over. So there's usually a 10-year period before the loan needs to be refinanced, or they have to make the full payment on. So I always say, if you're looking to do straightforward, risk-free, equity line is not necessary. It used to be in the 90s when regular interest rates were like 12%, and equity lines were like 7%. But now fixed rates are in the 3s and the 4s. If you have a second mortgage, if you have an equity line of credit, you definitely need to ask questions and find out how you can get a fixed rate with us and just have one bill. A lot of people have a first mortgage and then they have an equity line. The second mortgage, they're making two payments, and they just need one bill, and a fixed low-interest rate will get them out of any type of risk.
Sara, what are your thoughts about 15-year mortgages versus 30-year mortgages? There seem to be some very strict opinions. Somebody will say, oh, no, definitely 15. Don't do anything more than 15. Somebody will say, oh, why do that? Do 30. What do you think?
Well, I think it's like, I watch CNBC and all of the gurus, and it's great for them to speak if, you have a multi-million dollars or $1 million. But this is America, and I'm a first-generation immigrant. My brother and I started the company. And the reality of what's happening is that having a 15-year term means that your payment's going to be much higher. You're going to save a lot of money on interest instead of a 30-year term. But again, the mortgage is good debt, so there shouldn't be a hurry to pay off the mortgage. It's the negative debt that Americans are facing now with student loans and credit cards. And if you want to accelerate the payment, we have to make sure that there's no issue with meeting those payments based on your debt to income ratio. So if you are focused on cutting your term from 30 to 20 or 15 years, terrific. We can do that very easily. You will have a lower interest rate. Your payment will probably be close to double, but you will save probably $100,000 or $200,000 in interest as long as you can afford to pay off the mortgage. But really what we're looking at right now is a lot of folks are now heading towards retirement. They don't even have money saved for retirement, nor do they have money set aside for emergencies, and they haven't paid off some of their negative debt. So I really focus on pay off the negative debt and then look at paying off the mortgage, because the mortgage isn't hurting you in any way. Your property value is going up. Your credit card balances, they're going up because you have an 18% interest rate, and the same thing applies to your student loans or any student loans that folks have co-signed on, because that's a major issue, as you know, Mary, right now.
It sure is. I'm wondering, if someone were to get a 30-year mortgage, they could still double up occasionally when they felt they could. If they pay their mortgage, let's say their mortgage is $750 a month, but maybe one of the months or 2 or 3 months in the course of a year, they could double that payment. That might be one way without burdening themselves by contract for that 15-year. Does that make sense?
Right. That does make sense. However, one of the things with a 15-year term versus a 30-year term is the interest rate is going to be much more aggressive.
Right.
So you may have a 4% rate on a 30-year term. Even if you do double up your payments, you're still looking at that 4% interest rate. If you do a 15-year term and you can afford it, you could be looking at a 3% interest rate. So that's kind of the difference. But I agree with you. I don't believe in locking into something that you're going to be on a very tight budget and then not being able to meet those goals. And I always say keep it at a 30-year. Psychologically, people are like, oh, back to a 30-year. And you can pay it off whenever you want. When you have a fixed rate, you can pay off that mortgage the next day if you want. There's no penalty.
Sara, I will say that, we're really blessed to have Mary here, Mary Flynn. Yeah. She's trying out her new headsets today. And so she's over there fiddling with the headsets. I said, is she ready to go? Oh, yeah. And then all of a sudden, she can't get the headphones on right. It's so cute. And they're glow in the dark too. I love that.
Love it. Can I have a pair?
These little cheapy glow. They're purple and they glow in the dark. And I said to Pete, may we never have a need for them, but they've got this odd way of. Anyway, here we are.
Isn't that funny?
Thank you, Sara, for putting up with, I won't say us, putting up with me.
Not at all. I'm so grateful for you giving me the time and being able to share. You have such great questions, Mary.
Well, we're giving our listeners the time as well, because you have information that our listeners need. We're just the conduit here. That's what radio is about. We're a conduit. We present information or entertainment or whatever. And you're giving us information that's really important. And when we were going into the break, this is our last segment, but it's something that I did want to ask you about reverse mortgages. Is that something that is I want to say is it good or bad? I know that's kind of a strong question, but what do you think? What's your opinion about reverse mortgages? Are there risks, et cetera?
Right. So reverse mortgage has changed in the last 10 years dramatically. And, opinion-wise, it's a fantastic option for folks who are 62 years of age and above. And the fact of the matter is, not from my opinion, but from just presenting it on a factual basis and from our listeners who've come on air and shared their stories throughout the country, because we're also with Salem, and talked about how it's helped them.
Good.
So the reverse mortgage, it's a government-sponsored program now. So it isn't something that you can just access 100% of the value of the home. You have access to about 50% of the equity in the home. And one of the nice things about that also is that you get to choose if you want to make a mortgage payment or not, and you never lose the home, because when you buy a home, you get the deed as the ownership of that property, and so you are always going to have the deed and ownership. And you must go through counseling, which is an education piece that the government agency offers. So
well, that's interesting.
Right. Every state is different. In Florida, you can do that over the phone, or you can meet also in some areas with the counselor. And I love that because it's not what we say from the lending side. We just do the numbers and show you the possibility of when you do a reverse mortgage, how much money you can take out. But it gives you that time. You can take family members with you. Sometimes you want to bring your kids, and they will go through step by step what it means to have a reverse mortgage, and also then provide you a certificate which you sign saying you understand what it means, and then you provide us the certificate, and then we pay for the appraisal of the property.
Oh, I see. I'm assuming that one of the things people have to understand, the homeowner has to understand, is that they are still responsible for the property. They are still responsible for their taxes, their property taxes, yes?
Well, no, actually, the property taxes can be included.
Oh, I see.
So there are different options on the reverse mortgage. We've done options where the property taxes have been included for the borrower. And, the property in itself, it may be in good condition or not. Credit score can be 600, 580. You can also, it's very difficult as we age. This is a fact of life. If you have some other bills, or if you, let's say you're trying to pay off a bankruptcy that you're owing, we can pay that off. If you have, let's say, property taxes that are coming due or other liens or judgments, those items can be paid off. So it's just allowing you that ability to get to choose and be able to breathe and have peace of mind. I think it's really number one in our lives.
And that's a product. That's a product that you carry.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Product that we carry.
Yeah. So I have to ask you this: how did you get so smart?
I didn't. I love to learn, and I think I don't know if I'm smart. I just think that I've been really surrounded with some amazing people. And as I was saying to Pete, like earlier, I say never stop growing and learning and educating. So I always, take a course here and there, and you tend to really invest in volunteering and being involved and engaged with people so that they can teach you. So it's really important, I think, to constantly be aware of the fact that there's much more to learn, as they say, always a student. But I'm really very focused on the human condition, which is the number one thing, because my focus primarily was to be a clinical psychologist.
Oh.
In reality, finances play such a huge part in our day-to-day and our relationship, so it's pretty much the same because there's more emotion than just facts. And so I really think that it's important when you get to focus on reaching those goals financially. It doesn't mean you have to be a multimillionaire. You just need to be in a place where you're like, I'm good. I don't have bad debt. I get to choose how I wish to live my life versus, constantly working second, third jobs and missing out on the most important parts of life, which really are faith and family,
And oh gosh, that's so true. And it's interesting And clearly the whole connection between your interest in clinical psychology, which actually is scaring me and Pete right now. Because now you figured us out and we're as crazy as can be. But what's interesting is there really is a link, because when you talk about the human condition, how many of us wake up in the middle of the night worried about our finances?
Yes.
And the house, and will I lose the house? Can I carry the house? Should we have bought that house? Is the house too big? Did we make the right decision about the mortgage? Could we have gotten a better rate? Did we have the right person to help us? Should we have gotten Sarah? Yes.
Well, there is anxiety on that part a lot for people.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget that phone number, too, to connect with Sarah and the team there at the Mohsin Mortgage Corporation, Mohsin, Mohsin Mortgage, 800-662-9550, 800-662-9550. On that website, a plethora of information there, a very robust website. You can even connect there, and maybe make an appointment or something like that that's convenient for you. mmcmtg.com. And Sarah, by the way, we also, and Sarah knows this, of course, but we also have on our sister station on thewordorlando.com, our sister station, WTLN Radio. Of course, we also air your programs there, too, which I'm really proud to have done for how many years have we been doing that?
I think it's 100, Pete. It's been a wonderful 100 years.
But Sarah's on every day right here on 1520 WBZW and over there on WTLN Radio. And you can hear the podcasts of going back several episodes there on the WTLN on the website there on thewordorlando.com. So really encourage you to visit there and take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sarah, we have really enjoyed having you today. And I'm just curious, if someone had to take away one thing from today, in addition to calling Sarah, what would they want to be thinking about? What would you want them to think about with regard to mortgage?
To me, it's really not money related. It's you get to choose, your peace of mind. It's all just about asking questions.
Yes,
really
there you go back to
to
that human condition again. Yeah, ask away. Wow.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary. I'm so grateful for the time.
Well, you've been a delightful guest. We get feedback that we've had some good guests on, and you're certainly one of them. I'll say
towards
that.
the top of the list,
right up there. You're right up there with Crazy Mary and Crazy Pete. Now that we know she's wanted to be a clinical psychologist, boy, are we?
Yeah, that's new information. I didn't know that one.
But that helps your clients when you can bring a rounded perspective of whole life issues to the table. So we want to thank you for that. This has been a lovely conversation. We wish you continued success